Good evening, baseball fans. How you doing? Man, oh man, we got a blowout here tonight in Miami. USA are on their way to the finals in the WBC. My goodness, the offense is on fire tonight. We're going to talk all about the World Baseball Classic tonight. We're going to break down tonight's game. We're going to look over tomorrow's game with Japan and Mexico. That's going to be a fun one. We got some news. We got Trevor Bauer in the news this past week. We got World Baseball Classic drama with Edwin Diaz. How's Brandon Nimmo doing? Is he going to be ready for the start of the season? Who's the Yankees shortstop going to be? Could it be Anthony Volpe? We're going to talk all about it. Everyone, hello. Good evening. How you doing? Sorry, it took me a little bit to get going there. I haven't streamed in a little while, and every time I haven't streamed in a little while or haven't used the program that I use, it always asks me to do updates. And every time I do the updates, I always have to kind of go in there and just configure all the settings and everything and blah, blah, blah. So here we are. We're ready. How you doing, everyone? Good evening. Man, it is 13-2. I mean, I'm going to be honest here. I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, I think USA Venezuela was the semifinal. I mean, no disrespect to Cuba, but USA just clearly is the better team in this one. Even coming into this, I thought USA was going to handle this one pretty easily. I thought Venezuela had a legit chance of getting past the United States. In my predictions, I did pick Venezuela. And man, oh man, that prediction was looking pretty good until Trey Turner, Captain America himself, hit a grand slam. My goodness. What a game that was. What a game. But while we have had a lot of good moments in the World Baseball Classic, it's been extremely fun. This has been an awesome tournament so far. There has been a fair share of drama in the World Baseball Classic as well. I'm going to get into that a little bit. I'm going to give you my thoughts on kind of everything. We're going to go look over some numbers as well, look at the TV ratings and whatnot. But it's overall, man, what a fun time this has been. I actually just went to one of the games last week in Miami, went to Puerto Rico versus Venezuela. I'm going to say this right off the bat. That was one of the best experiences of my life. It was amazing. I have been to so many games. I've been to Fenway Park. I've been to places like, Camden Yards. I've been to a couple of ballparks out in California. I've definitely seen my fair share of games. There was nothing like the game that I went to with Venezuela and Puerto Rico. That was nuts. Like, the entire place was just shaking. It was like, what was it? Like the bottom of the fifth inning. It was like a 9-2 game. Puerto Rico drew a walk, and the place just like erupted. It was nuts. So I can't even. I still am processing that game in my head, like how amazing it actually was. So I'm a huge fan of the WBC. I think it's amazing. But there are definitely some people out there that are not big fans of the WBC. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. And we got some other news as well. Some spring training news. Trevor Bauer heading to Japan. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about at the end of the show. So stick around until then. And yeah, we got the season coming up. What is it now? We got like a little over a week. Man, oh man. This is why I like the World Baseball Classic, because it kind of, spring training, it kind of feels like when you get to a certain point, you're trying to get through it. And, but man, some good baseball here on TV. It has definitely helped pass the time by. And, but yeah, it's amazing how quickly the season has come up. I do see some super chats coming in. Let me just get to those real quick before I actually do get into tonight's show. We got almost around 70 people in the chat. So everyone, thank you for coming out tonight. Really do appreciate it. Michael Yanch, you had a $5 super chat earlier. USA is winning the WBC no matter who they face in the finals. I mean, Michael Yanch, man, I picked Japan to win this whole thing, man. I definitely think the United States, their bats have obviously woken up. They went through those first, they went through the group stages, and their bats were looking pretty quiet. Even against a team like Great Britain, my homeland, only scoring 6 runs. Like, that was a little, I don't know, that was a little underwhelming to me, against Great Britain, who had, they had Vance Worley pitching, and that was it. I don't know. To me, I was expecting them to score like 20 runs in that game, but the bats are definitely awake now. And, but I'm excited to see if it ends up being Japan. I mean, hey, Mexico, I think they got a chance too. Look out. I think Mexico, they got some upset potential, but I really like Japan. That pitching with Japan and against these bats, oof, that is a matchup. Michael Yench, thank you for the $5 super chat. I see some of you have renewed your memberships. Thank you so much. Jacob Toon, Ballcap Sports, thank you for re-upping, my friend. How you doing? Ballcap? I was just with you not too long ago. We were both at the game. That was a great time. Michael Yench, another $5 super chat. I love the WBC, but team Dominican take away half of the good players for my Padres. Yeah, they had a lot of good players, man. But I think, the players that have come back to camp, like Rafael Devers coming back to camp for the Red Sox, that to me, he needed to come back. He was not looking good in that tournament, man. There were some pitches that he was like popping up on where last season he was smoking them out to right field. And he needed to come back to camp, I think. So I think it's good for a lot of these teams that some of these players came back. Jacob Dune, $1.99. Does the WBC show the potential for Miami fan base? Yeah, I was actually talking about that. One of the, we were at the game, like I said, Venezuela, Puerto Rico. It was Ballcap Sports was with us. We had Stark Raving Sports and Wardy, NYM. And I was actually talking to Mike of Stark Raving Sports. And I was saying, like, man, look at all these fans out here in Miami. Like, it's sad because, like, the fans are there for the Marlins. They are there. But no one wants to go see the Marlins. It's pretty disappointing, honestly. It was amazing being a part of that crowd, but at the same time, it's like, man, this Marlins team could have such an electric fan base, but they just don't. They don't win. Like, they don't compete. It's what can you do? But let's get to it, everyone. Let's get to it. We got a lot to talk about tonight. This game is, what is it now? I can barely see. Bottom of the eighth. Is it? All right, 0 outs. So, yeah, this game is pretty much over. We're just going to wrap it up as a USA win. Can't say, you can never say it's over. Well, I was actually at a spring training game with Ballcap, with Wardy, with Stark Raving Sports, and we were doing a post game for Wardy. He was doing a post game for the Mets, and we were wrapping up a Mets win over the Nationals, and all of a sudden the Nationals tied the game, took the lead, hit another home run, and then the Mets didn't end up winning that game. Now, this is a little different. USA is up 13-2, but we can pretty much wrap it up as a win. But before I do get started, just got to go over tonight's sponsors. Our main sponsor is BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs, whether that's MLB coming up. We got some basketball. We got UFC. We actually just had a UFC event this past weekend. But whatever sports betting needs you may have, check out BetOnline. Use the code BLEAV, BLEAV, and you get a 50% welcome bonus. Also, don't forget, we got the season coming up. Don't forget about SeatGeek. Use my code HYDE, $20 off on your first purchase. And don't forget about Prize Picks. We are still partnered with Prize Picks here. Use my code GINGER. You'll get a 100% deposit match. And you know what? Also, we still got Manscaped too. Use my code HYDE. You get 20% off on your order on Manscaped. They got some good stuff over there. Go check it out if you're looking to upgrade your grooming needs. But okay. All right, here we go, everyone. I haven't done this live thing in a little while. I feel a little rusty. It's been a few weeks. But speaking of live, we got the season coming up. So kind of just giving you an idea of the schedule, I would say, for every week. Probably looking to go live every Wednesday, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, every Sunday night. That seems to be pretty much what we have been doing for the last year. So I'm going to keep to that. I'm going to try and upload, a video 1 to 2 times a week. But yeah, Sunday nights will be, I'm still kind of figuring out whether or not I want to do like a full power rankings, for all 30 teams. What I think I might do is I might go over the top stories from the prior week and maybe just do like a top 15 for the power rankings. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it yet, but Sunday nights we will be live. We've been doing Sunday nights now for what feels like the last couple of years. So definitely Sunday nights. And then Wednesday nights as well, whether that's doing, hot takes or just kind of going live to talk about some news or whatever it is. So Michael Yanks, another $5 super chat. Hader and Soto are next up for extinction. Extinction? And AJ will get it. Oh, extinction. Okay, I think that's what I was like. Extinction? What does that mean? But yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing with Soto, man. Got Ohtani coming up in the offseason next year. Who knows what ends up happening with him. It's going to be interesting with the Padres. It's going to be interesting. Michael Yench, thank you for the $5 super chat, my friend. You are amazing. So let's get to our first story. You know what? I guess we got to start with the World Baseball Classic. I don't really see any other what else we could start off with. So here we go. Oh, you know what? Actually, hold on. My rusty self. I don't got the music ready. But like I said, USA is up 13-2 in this game right now. Trey Turner has been absolutely going off. Oh, that's deep. And that's gone. Who just hit that? Oh, Cedric Mullins. Oh, man, Cedric Mullins has come alive in the WBC. Man, oh, man. Also, do you hear my little bit of commentary there? John Smoltz, are you watching this right now? This broadcast, I have heard so much dead noise during the commentary of these games. It is awful. Like, you have such an exciting game with USA and Venezuela, and John Smoltz, you are putting me to sleep. What the heck are you doing, my friend? Like, the old lady that lives next door to me, I could commentate walking her cat better than John Smoltz can commentate baseball. That guy is smart as can be. But, oh my goodness, can you please have a cup of coffee or an espresso? Please. You have some energy. John, what are you doing? You're putting me to sleep. And it's such an amazing game. I have never heard such lackluster commentary in my life. Have some energy. My goodness. Take a shot of espresso. John, what the heck are you doing? Anyway, sorry. Where is my music? I am very rusty here. Here we go. There it is. Here we go. Okay. Let's get to it. Alrighty. There we go. So as you can see, 14-2. Blowout win for the United States tonight. I mean, this team just absolutely went off. Trey Turner is on just a completely different level right now. You got to be thinking here, Dave Dombrowski is quite happy to see his newest player just going off in the WBC, man. Grand slam last night. How many RBIs he got tonight? Trey Turner, what is he doing tonight? Is Trey Turner's batting ninth? I didn't even realize that. Oh my gosh. 4 RBIs tonight. 3 for 5. Michael Yanks, another $5. The best TV broadcast team is here in San Diego. You mean Slam Diego with Don Orsillo. Don Orsillo, I miss you, my friend. I wish Don Orsillo was commentating this. I honestly think there is an argument to be made that Don Orsillo is the best play-by-play right now. He is just fantastic. And there's no bias there. That guy just brings the energy every single time, man. He is absolutely fantastic. But, yeah, USA, they're going to be moving on here. And just taking a look at the brackets, it's funny how the first quarterfinal matchup, that did not go the way I thought it was going to go. I think Korea was in that. I think I had Korea coming out of Pool B as well. That was a huge disappointment in this tournament. I really thought Korea could have done something. Cuba was, I thought, a pretty good team. I just thought, it would have been Korea coming out of Pool B. And then Pool A, I can't remember who else was in Pool A. My memory is not serving me well. I think it was Italy, and then, yeah, Cuba won Pool A. Oh, yeah, I had Korea winning Pool A, and then I thought Italy was going to be they were the runner-up, so I was right on that. But I thought Korea was going to win that pool. And the Australia-Cuba matchup, I didn't even know it was even going on. Like, all the attention was going to all these other quarterfinal matchups. Like USA, Venezuela, that was massive. But yeah, Cuba, no disrespect to them, but I just think USA, they were clearly just way ahead of them in just terms of talent. Cuba always puts together a pretty good run, when it comes to international play. But USA, they're just head and shoulders above Cuba here, so it's no surprise to see the outcome tonight. But USA will move on to the final. And then you got Mexico and Japan. That is tomorrow night. That is actually, I think, going to be a pretty solid game. That's going to be a better game than it is tonight. Tonight's a blowout. But the pitching matchup, I mean, look at this pitching matchup here. You got Patrick Sandoval and you got Sasaki, Roki Sasaki. As of right now on Fangraphs, Roki Sasaki is the number 3 prospect on the Fangraphs International Prospects list. I'll be honest with you. I've watched both Yamamoto and Sasaki. Both guys, man, they're good. But, dude, I'm putting Sasaki ahead of Yamamoto. Sasaki is only 21 years old. This dude is hitting triple digits. He's got a bigger build than Yamamoto, too. 6'3". He could probably fill out a little bit more. But, dude, Sasaki, this is a guy who had a 19 strikeout no-hitter. Was it in high school? I think it was while he was in high school. That is insane. Absolutely nuts. Or was that in high school? I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember if that was in high school or if that was in the pros. But either way, man, Sasaki is absolutely nasty, throws hard. I was actually just listening to the broadcast here, and they were saying that they talked to one of the scouts, or I think Ken Rosenthal talked to one of the scouts, and he said Josh Beckett. Oh, I miss Josh Beckett. Josh Beckett was the best pitching prospect that he had ever seen. But now he says that would be Sasaki, and then Josh Beckett would now be number 2 on his list. I'm just saying, Josh Beckett ended up being pretty good. He ended up being pretty good. I'm just saying, man, that's some pretty high praise, coming from someone that had Josh Beckett as their number 1 pitching prospect of all time. Sasaki's going to be really special. And what I really like about the World Baseball Classic, what I really like about it is that you get to see, this is like the 4th or 5th picture that we've seen, on the big stage. The first one was Daisuke Matsuzaka. That was just awesome when he was pitching. Like, the whole world had their attention on Daisuke, and then ended up coming to the Red Sox. That was one of the most fun off seasons of all time. Then you had Yu Darvish in 2009. I can't remember if it was Kenta Maeda in the World Baseball Classic. Can't fully remember. Can't remember. Was Hiroki Kuroda in the World Baseball Classic? Can't remember about those two guys. But, you've had just other guys, especially out of Japan. Japan just produces just these really good pitchers, and you get to see them on a big stage like this. And Sasaki, I think this is going to be fun. That's what I'm excited for. I can't wait to watch him. But then Sandoval is going for Mexico tomorrow. And this guy, I think, is one of the more underrated pitchers in the game. So this is going to be a great matchup. Oh, there it is. Team USA clinching it. That is over now. Game over. Team USA heading to the championship. But yeah, this is going to be a good matchup. Now, I am going to give the edge to Japan when it comes to the offense. I mean, we already know the bats that they got. You got Ohtani. Yoshida was hitting really well in the beginning of this tournament. Murakami, this guy's just a power machine. They got bats up and down. Nootbaar, another major leaguer that's in this lineup. And of course, Mexico has some pretty decent bats as well. Arozarena's been having himself a pretty good WBC. Meneses, man. I was actually just reading an article today that Chaim Bloom would have loved to have kept Joey Meneses, but because he was in the Red Sox organization at one point, they just didn't think he was going to get a whole lot of playing time, with Tristan Casas up there, so they ended up just letting him go. But Chaim was saying, hey, it's good to see that Meneses is having some success, with the Nationals. But, Paredes has had a couple of moments here, Verdugo, you got, it's a decent team with Mexico. So I don't think they're going to lie down. I do have Japan winning this game. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Mexico hanging in there and maybe even pull out a win. Maybe. I think Mexico, they got something about them. They got a bit of an energy about them. And Arozarena, man, this guy, he just shows up on the big stage. It's crazy with Arozarena. I read a tweet from Jared Carabas saying if you just had Arozarena just playing in just like high stakes games like playoff baseball, World Baseball Classic, this guy would be like an all-time great, And so Rosarina, let's see what he can do in this game tomorrow. He likes to come up in these big moments. So I think this is going to be a pretty good game. I think this is going to be way better than this game tonight. I mean, it was great for USA, obviously, but as in terms of a game, it wasn't very good if you ask me. But I think this is going to be a pretty good game tomorrow. But Sasaki, I think, is going to be the main attraction tomorrow. I'm really excited to watch him pitch. But let's kind of talk about the World Baseball Classic. So we have had, where should I start here? Where should I start? Should I talk about the ratings, or should I talk about the drama or the injuries? Oh, I'll go into the numbers first. Let's go into the numbers. So this World Baseball Classic, I think, and a lot of people would agree that this has been really good for the game of baseball. It's been very good for the game of baseball. I pulled up a few articles where they've pulled up some numbers. So this was a tweet back from March 16th. Now, 48% of Japanese households were watching Japan and Italy. Almost half of Japan, the houses in Japan, were watching this game. That is a ton of people, man. That's a ton of people. And we got some other ones here, too. We had Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. This game, 61% of TVs in Puerto Rico were tuned into the World Baseball Classic. Now, this game, everyone had their eyes on this game. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not surprised about this. I'm not surprised. I live in Florida. There's a ton of natives from Puerto Rico that that moved to Florida. And like I said, I was at the game, Venezuela and Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was down, what was it, like 9-2, 9-3. It was like the fourth or the fifth inning. Even though they were down by like 7-8 runs, whatever it was, the Puerto Rico fans were still just going crazy. They were still on their feet. They were still bringing the energy. It was crazy. I remember there was a walk. They drew a walk, and all the Puerto Rico fan base that were there at the stadium, they just erupted. I'm like, it was just a walk. It wasn't even like they got a hit or anything. They walked and just completely, you felt a slight shake in the stadium. It was pretty crazy. People love their baseball in Puerto Rico. Round drew over 1 million in attendance. So it was the most attended round in the history of the tournament, and a 98% increase versus the previous record of 510,056 in 2017. That is huge. That's huge. And this was before, but the pandemic and whatnot. So that is massive. That's huge. Taking a look, Michael Yanks here. Don't blame the WBC. The Mets are cursed. They're going to do the Mets stuff. Yeah, the Mets. LOL Mets. Jacob Toon, I saw a super chat from you as well. The announcers for the Japan game were top tier. Were they? I hope tomorrow's game are going to be good too. And then, okay, we're caught up on the super chats. Jacob and Mike, thank you so much for the super chats. But yeah, that is massive. Almost 100% increase in fan attendance in the group stages. That's awesome. That's fantastic, and I'm glad Miami has seen just such good crowds. I love that for Miami, man. I want the Marlins to start getting more fans, but the Marlins, they got to start winning, man. They got to start going out there. They got to start putting together some good teams. But let's take a look here. Ben Verlander also put Pool B, held at the Tokyo Dome in Japan, broke records for the most fans of any round in the history of the tournament, almost 362,000, and the highest average attendance, 36,198, of any first or second round pool in the tournament's history. So even in Japan, you're seeing a ton of fans coming out. Pool D in Miami at Lone Depot Park set the record for the most attended World Baseball Classic round ever in the United States, drawing 295,850, an increase of 81% average attendance in Miami. Registered 29,585, which was an increase of 8% versus the 2017 average of 27,313. So obviously you saw more of a growth when it came to the attendance over in Japan, so that's just massive. But obviously overall a huge increase in attendance, but still 8%. That's really solid, going from 27,000 all the way up to 29,000 on average. That's pretty good, man. That's not bad at all. And then Mexico's victory over Team USA on March 12th at Chase Field drew 47,534, which is a World Baseball Classic attendance record for any first-round game. Hey, Chase Field, they can pack it as well. Could you imagine if the Diamondbacks make it to the World Series? Oof, that place would be popping, man. That's a lot. That's a huge turnout, man. But then he goes on to say here, both U.S. venues set single-day attendance records in the building's histories during the first round on Saturday, March 11th. Lone Depot Park in Miami drew 71,289, and Chase Field had a total attendance of 68,147, both over the course of two, and then it cuts off. But as you can see, just to sum it all up, the attendance, it's been through the roof. Major League Baseball, everyone, that has put this together, they are very happy with the increase of the numbers. Now, there has been a bit of commotion going back and forth when it comes to the World Baseball Classic, and that actually leads me into my next story. The story that kind of set off a bit of a debate with the World Baseball Classic was the injury to Edwin Diaz during or after the Puerto Rico Dominican Republic game. Edwin Diaz was celebrating with Puerto Rico after they won the game, and what ended up happening is Edwin Diaz hurt his knee, and now he's out for the year. So that was that's tough to see, man. It's tough to see any player get hurt, and a player that's going to be out for the entire season. But man, Edwin Diaz, that's a rough one, man. That is rough. Edwin Diaz right now is the best closer in the entire universe. This guy, I honestly think, now I'm not comparing him to Mariano Rivera at a career point of view, but the level that Edwin Diaz is at right now, it's Mariano Rivera kind of level. Like in terms of, wins above replacement when you look at the numbers. I'm not saying his career matches up to Mariano Rivera, but when Mariano Rivera was near the peak, of his career, Edwin Diaz is right around there right now. And that, what does that mean? Just dominant, right? Edwin Diaz, if he comes into the game right now, it's pretty much game over. Just like Mariano Rivera, when he came into the game, is during his prime. Mariano Rivera was good for his entire career, but when Rivera was in his peak, it was game over. Like, you weren't doing anything against him. That's what Edwin Diaz is right now. So it was really tough. Like I said, tough to see any player go down and be out for the whole season. But man, a guy like Edwin Diaz and on a team where they're trying to win a World Series, they are spending money left and right. Now, a lot of people are, they're like, oh, you can't really feel bad for the Mets, They're spending a boatload of money, whatever. But that's tough, for a team that has championship aspirations where they're going for it. And to lose their closer, that's pretty tough to see. So we started seeing a lot of back and forth. Now, the big one is KFC Barstool. All right, so he has been kind of going off on the WBC for the past, ever since the Edwin Diaz injury happened. But I just pulled up one of his tweets. He wrote here, basically his argument is that the WBC is completely irrelevant. And then he put a couple of points. If you ask Diaz if he thought it was worth it, his honest answer would be absolutely not. And then the other point that he puts here, the most the WBC has ever been talked about is this injury. It's the only thing people will remember from the 2023 WBC. Well, that did not age very well because Trey Turner hit a huge grand slam against Venezuela last night. And now I actually think the numbers back it up too. I think that clip, I don't know. I don't remember who posted it. If it was Fox Sports that posted it, or if it was MLB.com, or if it was MLB themselves that posted it. Either way, if you put together all of the clips of Trey Turner's grand slam, I don't even know what the number is of how many views it's gotten. It's in the millions. I don't know what that number is exactly off the top of my head. But yes, that second point that he puts right here, that did not age very well, because I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think anyone was talking about the Edwin Diaz injury last night. I don't think anyone's talking about the Edwin Diaz injury right now. So yeah, I don't think that ended up becoming true. So, and no, honestly, I disagree. I do disagree with this first part. Edwin Diaz, I think, if you actually did ask him, I think he would probably say, yeah, it's an absolute bummer to be out of this, to be out for the season. Sure, I would think he would say that. I do. But I don't think he would regret, suiting up for his country. Now, I can understand, in a way, like, I sort of understand where he's coming from. I do think mostly where he's coming from is he was mad that the Mets just lost their closer. I think that's the main source of, his tweets, and his arguments, is that he's just mad that his team, who's trying to win a World Series, just lost their dominant closer. What is this? Ballcap Sports has gifted 5 memberships to viewers. What is going on here? Nuke Blaster, UYT, Mason R, Southsider 14, Rayneel Soto, and the Doctor have been awarded memberships or gifted memberships. Ballcap, man, you're awesome. Hey, thanks for that. I forgot that's still a feature on here. I forgot that you can do that here on YouTube. Hey, Ballcap Sports. Hey, salute to you, my friend. Hey, everyone, if you were, I'm sure a lot of you are subscribed to Ballcap, but if anyone's not subscribed, definitely go follow. We do pretty similar content, and hey, we're just people that we're talking heads. So if you want to just listen to more people that talk baseball, go subscribe to Ballcap Sports. Ballcap, thank you, man. That's awesome. That's really cool you did that. What was I saying? My potato brain is not working right now. But yeah, KFC, I do disagree. He's been getting a lot of heat, but I'm going to keep it pretty civil. I'm just going to simply say I disagree. I just don't think his takes, you got to remember, this is a guy that works for Barstool. He knows, I think a part of it is strategic a little bit. I personally do think that. He would probably say no, and I'm an idiot. I do think personally it is a little strategic, because a lot of what they do over at Barstool, they look for clicks, like any media company. They like to talk the hot button issues. That's kind of what they do. And I personally do think that this is kind of a part of his job a little bit, to stir the pot, to get people, to rev up people's engines a little bit, to get people going. I think that's kind of part of his job, and I think he knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows he's going to get traction, and he knows it's going to bring in traffic, not just to his tweets, but also to Barstool. So I do think it is a lot about the engagement. So sure, I do think it's also his opinions, but I think he also knows what he's doing exactly. I think if you were to talk to him, like, off the computer, off Twitter, or like whatever, I think he would say, like, yeah, a lot of it is to draw engagement. A lot of it is to just draw some clicks. But I do think that is what he feels too. So, it is what it is. He can have his opinions. He can do what he needs to do. But he has been going back and forth here with Jared Carrabis. Jared Carrabis, I feel like, has been dominating this debate. And I'm not saying that out of bias. I'm just saying I think most people, Carrabis has been pretty much just defeating him with statistics and numbers. And, people have also been saying, arguing against the WBC, you're kind of people are skewing the numbers. They're cherry picking the numbers. But let's be honest here. Let me pull up these numbers again. Going back to the Japan-Italy quarterfinal, where 48% of Japanese households had the game on. I mean, I think we can all agree that if there was no Japan-Italy game, well, then they wouldn't be watching baseball. So that's 48% of Japanese households that you wouldn't have if you didn't have games going on. So, I mean, that in itself is a win. I mean, you can cherry pick the numbers or whatever you want or whatever, but people are watching it. So it is what it is. And even the Puerto Rico game, at the end of the day, 61% of people are in Puerto Rico are watching the game. If there wasn't a game, if there wasn't a World Baseball Classic, well, there's 61% of the TVs in Puerto Rico that aren't watching a game. I mean, I don't know how else to argue that, with a more simple argument. I don't know so I do think KFC Barstool, I think at this point he knows he's lost a little bit. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not even going to leave this out. When the Edwin Diaz injury happened, let me pull this back up. When the injury did happen, I actually did put out a tweet, and I'm going to make this very clear. I did put out a tweet that says, don't tell me Edwin Diaz, just got hurt for the season, from a meaningless exhibition game. When I tweeted that, I meant it more from the Mets' point of view. Because let's be real here. I think the Mets, I don't know. It's just, if I was running the Mets, to be completely honest with you, I would not care at all about the World Baseball Classic. If I was the Mets, if I lost my guy, I'd be pretty upset if I'm Steve Cohen, to be completely honest with you. So when I made that tweet, I meant it more from the Mets' point of view because they're going after a World Series. But in terms of growth for the game, in terms of spreading the audience worldwide, the World Baseball Classic is an absolute win. It's an amazing event, and I'm glad it's getting the traction that it's getting. Now, you can make some arguments. Could maybe you move the World Baseball Classic to maybe like after the season when guys are, still kind of playing and they're still kind of in their rhythms, and whatnot. Maybe that could be a better time for it. People have even said maybe the middle of the season. Could you move it then? It is kind of awkward for Major League Baseball players to, in my opinion, to do it during spring training because they're not really ramped up. These guys are going through spring training mode right now, but they're doing it on such like a big stage. So I think there is an argument to move it. I don't think that's completely out of the question at all. But I think personally, in terms of the Mets, all these other teams that are going for a championship, yeah, if they lost one of their top guys, I think they're probably slamming down their hands on their desks and they're upset, Yeah, I do think a lot of these teams in Major League Baseball, they could care less about this thing. I really do. I think, for example, like say Dave Dombrowski, he's probably very happy right now that Trey Turner is hitting well. That's probably nice to see from his point of view, because he's hitting well. And hey, that's a good sign for the Phillies coming up in this season. Seeing these guys performing well, I'm sure these guys are, that are running these organizations, they're probably pretty stoked to see him doing well. But if a guy gets hurt, yeah, they understand the risk, that they know that there's a risk going into it, that these guys could get hurt. That's where I think there is, there are teams out there that are, they're not really for it. I think the point of this debate, when you look at this debate, World Baseball Classic, in favor for it or not in favor for it. Well, that's what makes a debate, right? Is because there are points on both sides. However, I personally think that the World Baseball Classic is amazing. I think it's something that has obviously shown with numbers, with data, with statistics, that it is a successful event and it needs to keep happening. My homeland of Great Britain was in this tournament. They had the worst jerseys of all time, but they were there. Like, who would have thought? Who would have thought that? I mean, I consider myself the most un-British British guy you'll ever meet. I moved away from England when I was 7 years old. I didn't really, I had a little accent, when I was just a wee little lad. But obviously, you don't hear a British accent with me anymore. So yeah, but it was still really cool to see, of all the teams or of all the countries in this thing, Great Britain. Like, that's crazy. That's awesome. And, countries like Japan, where they don't have Major League Baseball. Well, they can watch it, but that's not really, they can't just get up and go see a Major League Baseball game. They're in Japan. Now, sure, they got amazing baseball over in Japan. But I think we can all agree that Major League Baseball, I think we can all easily agree that Major League Baseball is the best baseball on the planet. It's the most talented. It's the best talent in the world, right? And I actually put up an interesting question on Twitter the other day. And I want to ask all of you right now, and I want you to let me know in the chat. So here's the question. In 10 years from now, which championship do you think will be more significant? Do you think the World Series will be more significant? Do you think the World Baseball Classic will be more significant? Or do you think there'll be equal significance? Now, when I did do the poll, more people voted. I think it was like 60% for the World Series. I think it was like 30% for the World Baseball Classic. Or maybe it was like, I think it actually might have been like 20% for equal. And I think it might have been like a little less than 20% for the World Baseball Classic. So people out there are still at least from the people that voted on my poll, were more in favor of the World Series. And in my personal opinion, I do think the World Series, at least I don't think it'll change. Who knows? Who knows if this thing ends up blowing up and it ends up being just like this crazy World Cup level kind of a thing. I do think right now the World Series is the most important championship in the world, because that is where the best players in the world go to play. All right. So that is why I think these organizations, obviously, sure, they probably appreciate the World Baseball Classic, but when their goal is to win a World Series, that makes it, and when you have the best talent in the world playing in the major leagues, that makes the World Series the most significant championship in the world for baseball. So again, I think the World Baseball Classic is amazing. I think it's absolutely just a wonderful event. I think it's great. I was there. I was there firsthand. I think if KFC Barstool went to a game and he actually sat there, I think his mind would change. I really do think that. I didn't expect that energy when I went to the game. I really didn't. I thought it was going to be, I thought it would just be like any other game that I've gone to. No, it ended up being one of the most memorable games I've ever been to in my life, if not the most memorable game. It wasn't even the best game that I went to. I've been to games where there's been walk-off home runs. I've seen comebacks. I've seen some good games in the past. I've been to like a 15-inning game, or it was like a 14-inning game between the Rays and the Red Sox, and Evan Longoria hit a walk-off home run. Cried myself to sleep that night, but it was an amazing game. And Tampa Bay just went crazy when that happened. But that was nowhere near what I was a part of last weekend. That was crazy. So I think if KFC Barstool just went to a game, I think his mind would just completely change, to be completely honest. So I don't know what else to say about it. To me, I think the WBC is fantastic. I think it's great. And watching that USA-Venezuela game last night and Trey Turner hitting a grand slam, that was so cool. That was awesome. And I guarantee you, if it ends up being USA-Japan, ooh, that is going to be a good final. That is going to be a really good final. I'm actually curious to see if it would be a sellout. Because I was looking at tickets the other day. There were still tickets available. I would think it's probably going to get close to a sellout, man. Because it's interesting because, a lot of the fans that have been going to the World Baseball Classic, a lot of the Puerto Rico fans, Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, those fans have been going to these games in Miami like crazy. I would be interested to see what the turnout would be for USA Japan. I still think it would be really high, just because of the attention that the WBC has been getting. So, but I would be interested to see that number. Anyway, enough of the World Baseball Classic. Actually, no, I do have one more thing to talk about with the World Baseball Classic, and that is Jose Altuve. He actually got injured last night, and it looks like he's going to be out for a little while. Got hit by a pitch in that game. There's no timeline as of right now, no timetable. Taking a look here, Astros general manager Dana Brown informed reporters that second baseman Jose Altuve has a fractured right thumb and will undergo surgery in the coming days. There's no timetable for his return. So tough news, man, because Jose Altuve, he was really good for the Astros last year. I know a lot of people like to hate on Jose Altuve, but I'm just saying though, this guy was really good. That's a decent loss for the Astros. So as of right now, you got a couple of options here. You got Mauricio Dubon, who I would think is going to get a decent amount of playing time. You got David Hensley as well. But they're definitely just going to have to, just do what they can without him. That's definitely a bat that they're going to miss. A bat at the top of the order that they're going to miss for a little bit. But luckily with the Astros, they still got some other bats. You just brought in Jose Abreu this past offseason. Thank God they did that, because they would still have a few good hitters in this lineup, but it wouldn't have the depth that it's had in the past. And obviously Yordan Alvarez, right there in the middle. Bregman, Kyle Tucker, I still think is underrated. And then Jeremy Pena. I am interested to see how the top of the lineup is going to be. Jeremy Pena, how effective is he going to be as a leadoff hitter? Obviously this is a guy who had a ton of success in the postseason last year. But last year he only had a 296 on base in the regular season. I wonder if they end up going Kyle Tucker in the leadoff spot. I think that could maybe be a better option because he gets on base a bit better. Could you even go Alex Bregman out of the leadoff spot? Actually, I was looking at the wrong numbers. Those are the projections. Sorry. Jeremy Pena last year had a 289 on base. Sorry about that. I was looking at the projections. But Kyle Tucker, he had a 330 on base. Bregman had a 366. I wonder, could you actually go with Bregman in the leadoff spot? I think that might actually be a better option. You could go Kyle Tucker in the 3 spot, Alvarez in the 4. You got Abreu too. Now, yeah, without him, you're looking at the back end of the lineup doesn't have as much extension in it. Altuve is a big bat, and they're really going to have to really, plug guys in and see what they can do. But if it were me personally, I would go Bregman in the leadoff spot. The guy gets on base. He had a good bounce back season last year. Astros fans, let me know. Let me know. Who would you want as your leadoff guy? What would you do with the lineup? I'm interested to see what you think. I do think the Astros will be fine, but this is kind of where the Astros right now, this is where a farm, their farm is not amazing, right? It's not terrible, but it doesn't have a lot of depth in it. And this is where when you get guys like Altuve, that could be out for, a couple of months. This is where you would like to dip into your farm, and go get someone, right? But now this is where I wonder if the Astros are going to start to feel, let's say that, what if they get another injury? What if they get another guy? You can never predict injuries, obviously, but what if one of these other guys goes down? What happens if Yordan Alvarez, has something going on with his knee? What happens if Jose Abreu has something going on? Let's say they lose another one of these big bats. Then the Astros lineup, it's not looking amazing at that point. Starting pitching. Sure, a lot of people are pretty high on like Christian Javier right now. Luis Garcia looked pretty good yesterday in the WBC. Framber Valdez has emerged as an ace. But, what if something happens here? The Astros, it's still a really good team. And it's kind of hard to pick against them until they actually lose, right? But this is where a deep farm system or a deeper farm system really comes into play. And the Astros, they don't have an amazing farm system as of right now. So, actually, I can go pull this up here. Baseball America. Let's see. Where do they have the Astros ranked? Let's see. Organizational rankings. Where are you? There we go. So Baseball America, as of right now, they have the Astros. They got the Astros at 25. So I'm just saying, man, I think there is going to come a point where, yeah, we're seeing a lot of success with the Astros right now. But I think they are going to have to really start focusing on the farm in the next few years. I mean, how long can they keep this up? Hey, guys get hurt. It's just part of the game, right? And they've lost Altuve now for a couple of months, what it looks like. If someone else goes down, they could be in trouble. So keep an eye on the Astros' health. I think that's going to be a big factor for them this year. Here we go. Moving on. Hey, we were just talking about Edwin Diaz. You know, a lot of injuries on this show. A lot of injuries. And Brandon Nimmo had a bit of a scare. And but it looks like he is going to be okay for opening day. At least he seems optimistic about it. So let me pull up the story here. Here we go. Alrighty. So taking a look. So as of right now, they're calling him week to week with a low-grade strain in his knee and ankle. So he was sliding into second base, and he just went in just pretty awkward. And so as of right now, his status for opening day remains unclear. But he actually did talk. He gave some comments here to MLB.com today. Says that he's hoping to be ready for opening day. He's saying that he's feeling a lot better. He said here, I was relieved that it wasn't more serious. There was no structural damage, just kind of sprains in there. To me, that was the best news we could have received. Just how awkward the play was, catching that cleat. A lot of things could have gone wrong. I'm fortunate we dodged a bullet. So I wouldn't be surprised. So there you can see the play right there. He was sliding in. Don't want to get hit with any copyrights. MLB.com. They're notorious for giving copyright claims. So yeah, you could see his cleat got caught and he came up pretty awkward. So I would imagine, you know, if he is not ready for opening day, you know, maybe they keep him out for like a week or two, you know, just to kind of make sure he's good to go. It's a long season. So the last thing you want to do is throw Brandon Nimmo out there when he's not fully ready to go. And then something worse happens and then you lose him for the whole year. That would be a nightmare. If the Mets lost Brandon Nimmo, like you can lose Edwin Diaz. And I think you can still find a way to make it. You know, I didn't actually talk more about the Edwin Diaz thing because I already did a video on Edwin Diaz. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I kind of talked a little more in detail about it, but just really quick talking about that. You know, teams have had issues with bullpens before, and they found a way, you know, to get it done. I mean, if you look at my Red Sox, you know, sure, they had Craig Kimbrell in 2018. He was a huge part of that team that year. But if you remember, they didn't even bring Craig Kimbrell in for the save. They brought in Chris Sale to close out the World Series that year. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes your bullpen doesn't need to be perfect. Yes, obviously, it helps to have a closer at the back end. But I think the Mets, they got some guys in that bullpen. You know, you have guys like Ottavino. You brought in Raley. You know, you got some arms there, right? You know, there is a guy like Zach Britton out there. Could you trade for Diaz, you know, on the Reds, his brother? There's some options, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the Mets eventually make a deal, all right? There are some guys to keep an eye on. I'm in that video that I did, I mentioned this. You probably might laugh when I say this, but like Aroldis Chapman, if the Royals can get him turned around, you got to think the Royals, they brought him in on a cheap deal. The Royals, I would think, you know, sure, they're going to try and compete. That Central, I think, is a bit open. But if the Royals are not really contending, you know that they're going to want to try and get him back on track as much as possible. Because, man, if he's doing well, a team would absolutely want to trade for him. Like for the stretch run, you know, before the trade deadline. I'm just saying, the Royals, they can get prospects for him. I'm just saying, man. And if you got a team like the Mets that are desperate, you could end up maybe getting a pretty good piece, you know, for Aroldis Chapman. So that's just an example, though. I'm not you know, who knows what's going to happen with him. But that's just an example. So I would think the Mets are going to be in the market. Are they going to be in the market right now? I'd probably say no right now because I think teams are kind of getting their rosters set. They're trying to, you know, figure things out. So I think the Mets, they kind of have to stand back right now, and they just got to let things unfold. But I would not be surprised at all, you know, come May, you know, for the Mets, if you start hearing them, like, you know, calling teams, you know, asking about their relievers, you know, something like that. I would not be surprised about that at all. I don't think a deal happens right now because I think it's just kind of an awkward time where teams are trying to figure out their 40-man rosters and, whatnot. They're trying to figure out their major league rosters. So I don't think you'll see a deal right now for the Mets to acquire someone. Could they sign someone like Zach Britton? They did go to his workout the other day. He did pitch for, team scouts. Could you maybe bring someone in like him? I think that's possible, sure. But to make a trade, I don't think a trade happens right now. I would expect a trade if they were to trade for a reliever, May, June, I think either way, the Mets will end up trading for a bullpen guy at some point. It just depends on how is this bullpen going to do, in the next, over the first month or two. So I think they will be able to get by for the most part. Who ends up being their closer? I mean, I think you can have an argument for Ottavino or Robertson. I think there's an argument for either. Could you... I mean, the thing with David Robertson is he can strike guys out, but he also walks a lot of guys too. Do you want him in the closer role? Or Ottavino, I think, is a little bit more of a safe option. Robertson has had more closing experience, though. So it's interesting. I'm very curious to see how the Mets go about it. If I were to guess, I would think maybe they go Robertson right now, and then Ottavino stays in the setup role, and then Brooks Raley can be the lefty at the back end. But I don't know. But either way, getting back to Brandon Nimmo here, this guy you don't want to lose. Because if you lose Brandon Nimmo, that's massive. You lose your leadoff hitter, you lose your center fielder. In 100 times out of 100, if you were to tell me, hey, Robbie, you got to lose one of these players for the whole season, Edwin Diaz or Brandon Nimmo, I'm going Edwin Diaz all day. I'm not losing my leadoff center fielder. So I think they will be a little bit cautious with him. I think you could see him out maybe the first week or two, and then he could get into the lineup after that. I think they're going to be very cautious, and I think they're going to be careful with him. So, but hey, if he makes it for opening day, cool beans. Wouldn't be mad at that at all. But alrighty, let's get to the next story here. Let's get to some other spring training action. And hey, my good old buddies, the New York Yankees, they got some news right now. Could Anthony Volpe end up making the major league team? I think this is a really interesting story. I'm actually very curious about this. Sure, I'm paying attention to my Red Sox right now. My Red Sox right now have been fantastic this spring. My goodness. We just saw Brian Bayo today. Man, oh man, Brian Bayo is back. He is pitching. Oh man, Bayo looked good today, man. So I'm not paying too much attention to the Yankees, but it's pretty fun to see a shortstop battle. And right now, top prospect Anthony Volpe is making it harder for the Yankees because it looked like Oswald Peraza was going to be the guy, but Volpe has been having a good spring. So let's actually pull up Anthony Volpe here. Here we go. He's been hitting really well. Taking a look. And let's pull up Oswald Peraza while we're at it. Here we go. So right now, Anthony Volpe, this spring, 37 ABs. He's hitting .297, a .422 on base, a .990 OPS, 2 home runs, 4 stolen bases. He's having a good spring. But Oswald Peraza, this was coming into spring. He was the favorite. He has not been having an amazing spring. He's not getting a lot of hits, but he is getting on base, a .353 on base. So that's not bad. But either way, I think when you look at it, Volpe has been the better hitter this spring. Sure, it's nice to see Peraza getting on base. And with Peraza, you're going to get a good glove. You're going to get some speed with him as well. He's got a couple of stolen bases this spring. But Volpe right now, when you look at the numbers, Volpe right now, I think just the numbers is the better choice. I think we can all agree. He's getting way more hits. He's hitting home runs. He's stealing bases. He's playing good defense out there. Volpe is looking like he's ready for this job. Now, if we're to take a look, Fangraphs, let's see what they're thinking here. I believe they're still leaning Peraza, right? In my personal opinion, in my personal opinion, I do think Peraza ends up being the shortstop. I know it's fun to think, oh, Anthony Volpe, this is our guy. You know, like he's our future. He's our next Jeter. Yeah, let's get him in now. If it were me, now if I'm playing MLB The Show, MVP baseball, I think is the greatest game ever made. If it were me and I'm running the Yankees, yeah, I'm putting Volpe at short. I'm putting Peraza at second, and I'm trading Gleyber Torres for pitching. That's exactly what I'm doing. But that's video games. Real life, it's probably not going to happen that way. If I'm the Yankees, though, Gleyber Torres, if I'm Gleyber Torres, I'm thinking to myself, man, I might not be playing for the Yankees after the trade deadline this year. I'm going to get myself ready to pack up and go to another team. Because I honestly think you could see Anthony Volpe and Oswald Peraza up the middle. Could it be the other way around? Could you end up keeping Gleyber Torres and maybe they use Peraza? I don't know. Could you maybe trade Peraza at some point? I would think the Yankees would rather trade Gleyber Torres. But they seem to just be in love with the guy. I don't know. Volpe, but they've hung on to Volpe too. So Peraza. Could they end up trading Peraza? Maybe. Probably not. I think they would rather trade Gleyber Torres. But taking a look here, Volpe, he played in AA last year, 110 games. He got off to a bit of a slow start, but he ended up picking it up. This guy, look at these numbers that he put up in AA. Batting average is kind of whatever at 251, but you got to remember, he got off to a slow start. He ended up finishing with a 348 on base, a 472 slugging. He had 18 homers, 60 RBIs. Look at the stolen bases. He had 44 stolen bases. That's crazy. Good glove out there too. My guess is he played 22 games at AAA last year. I think they're going to put him at AAA. That's just what I think personally. I don't think they're going to rush him. They'll stick him at AAA, get some at-bats down there, not having to come into the season, all the pressure of being the Yankee starting shortstop. I think they give him time in AAA. Peraza has already seen action in the major leagues. He was in the playoffs last year. So I think they're probably more comfortable giving the job right now to Peraza, despite Volpe having a good spring. It is exciting to think about Volpe as your shortstop if you're the Yankees, and I think eventually he will be. And I think we all agree that he will eventually be the shortstop. But when I say eventually, I think he will be playing. I think he will be starting games for the Yankees within the first couple of months. It's just a matter of when. It's not if, when. He will have that job eventually. But that's why I'm saying, man, Volpe and Peraza up the middle, that to me is, I think, exactly what the Yankees need to do. I think they need to stop thinking about just home runs so much, Get some speed into your lineup. Get a bit of a different dynamic in your lineup, especially with the bigger stolen bases, right? Get a little bit more speed in this lineup. Make things happen more on the base paths. Get a little more athletic, right? I'm not saying Gleyber Torres isn't athletic, but I think Gleyber Torres, he's more of a guy, sure, he'll give you some stolen bases. He'll run the bases fine. But I think Gleyber Torres, his big thing is that he can hit for a bit more power. He can drive in runs. I think there are some teams out there that would like to have a Gleyber Torres. And, hey, the Yankees right now, hey, Carlos Rodon, when is this guy going to come back? I don't know. Maybe I would want another bullpen guy if I were the Yankees. I would dangle Gleyber Torres all day, and Volpe and Peraza are up the middle for me. We will just have to wait and see how this ends up turning out. But taking a look here at this article, it says here, facing queries concerning when he would know the winner of the Yankees shortstop competition, Aaron Boone answered with another question. When do rosters have to be submitted? So clearly he's having a bit of a tough time here, Mr. Aaron Boone. He actually went on to say here, or was this Aaron Judge? Oh, Aaron Judge talked about Anthony Volpe. When you've got a guy out there on first, able to kind of distract the pitcher from trying to execute a pitch, especially with our lineup, the middle of our lineup, it's only going to pay dividends for us. It's just going to give us more opportunities for pitches over the plate. And I think a lot of people, sure, we sit here and we look at numbers, we look at stats, but that's a really good take from Aaron Judge, right? That's kind of something you don't really think about very much. When a guy like Volpe or just anyone that has some speed out there, especially now with the bigger base paths, when they're on the mind of the pitcher, it makes the job for the pitcher a little tougher. And it makes the job for the pitcher to execute a pitch a little tougher. And that gives more opportunities for these power guys in this lineup, because if they don't execute a pitch and they leave a pitch hanging because their mind is a little too focused on that runner, and you leave one over the plate for Judge or Stanton, I'm just saying that's not too bad if you ask me, man. He goes on to say, it's great. He's just such a good all-around player. Oh, this is Aaron Boone, actually. It's great. He's just such a good all-around player. You can tell he really loves just all the little things within the game. So the Yankees will hold a sizable meeting probably early next week to hash out roster uncertainties. So again, just giving you my final prediction. I think it would be really cool if Volpe was the shortstop, and I do think they are considering it. I do think they're going to send him to AAA to start the year, and I think they're going to give it to Peraza, and then I think it's just a matter of time before Volpe is starting at shortstop or second or wherever. He's going to be in the lineup at some point. So I am definitely intrigued about that, especially as a Red Sox fan. Hey, my Red Sox are going to win the World Series this year. None of you know it yet. I'm sorry. I know you don't know. You know, I hate that for all of you. You just don't know how good my Red Sox are going to be. So really for me, it doesn't really matter all that much, because whatever, the Yankees, they're not going to get by my Red Sox. What can you say? Championship for the Red Sox this year. I digress. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about our next story. Speaking of spring training, this is a fun one. I actually have not talked a lot about this guy. Ben Joyce of the LA Angels. Could he make the bullpen? I think this is really interesting. This is a guy, he throws absolute gas. Let's go take a look at Ben Joyce. Now, and here's why I'm actually so intrigued with Ben Joyce. Let me pull up some numbers here. Here we go. Let's pull up some stats. And I got a story for all of you as well. Hold on just a second. Where are the stats? My goodness, my potato brain is not working right now. Here we go. So, taking a look here. Ben Joyce leaving a mark in spring training. This dude is throwing 104 miles an hour in spring training right now. Let's go look at one of these pictures here. Look at Ben Joyce. That fastball is exploding out of his hands. Look at this. Whoosh. Like, that is nuts. That's like a video game looking fastball, man. That's crazy. Man, Ben Joyce. Dude. He's got 5 innings this spring, 5 games. He's got 6 strikeouts. Now, the question is he going to make this bullpen? You know, we saw Garrett Crochet. Well, this was during that COVID year, remember? Garrett Crochet, he ended up just getting put into the White Sox bullpen. He never even went to the minor leagues. He just got put into the White Sox bullpen. I'm doing the same thing with Ben Joyce. I'm not just saying that just out of fun. You know, like, yeah, it is pretty fun to add a guy like this into your bullpen no matter what. And yeah, but like, sure, he just got drafted. I don't care. I'm putting that guy in my bullpen. Your bullpen stinks. Like, or it's not very good, and it wasn't very good last year. They've added a couple of pieces. It looks a little better. Let's actually go take a look at the Angels bullpen last year. Where did they rank? They weren't very good. I'll say that. They were 25th overall in Fangraph WAR. Now, you didn't have a bad ERA. It was a 3.95. The FIP was kind of whatever at a 4.31. XFIP was a 4.19. You just weren't really striking out a lot of guys. You know, under 8.5 strikeouts per 9. They were just not really, they weren't a bad bullpen. They just weren't very effective. I think a game changer like Ben Joyce is exactly what they need. You know, like when you look at the projections here, you know, sure, you got a couple of guys here. They're okay. You did add Matt Moore. You know, you got Aaron Loop in there. Actually, let me pull up the 2022 numbers. You know, Matt Moore last year, that was a good addition for them. I like that. But, you know, it's a fine bullpen. It's not like bad. You know, who knows who their closer is going to be at this point? You got a few different options. You got 4 guys that could be a potential closer. You know, and you got Quijada. He's been in the World Baseball Classic too. He's been pretty fun to watch this WBC. I just feel like they need a game changer guy. just put Ben Joyce in there. Honestly. I mean, you know, you got like, yeah, I don't know. Who could you possibly take out? I don't know. Put like Tucker Davidson like in the minors or something. I feel like Joyce would be really good for this bullpen. I feel like they don't have an arm like that. Well, no one has an arm like Ben Joyce, but they don't have a velocity, like a big velocity guy that can just come in and just shut it down. I would love that. Now, in this story, Phil Nevin actually did make some comments. So talking here, where is the comments here? So I think they were talking about his velocity. Ben Joyce said that was pretty exciting to hear. I got up there a few times in college, and since then I haven't really gotten up there again. My arm's been feeling great. It was exciting to see that number, and I'm looking to keep ticking that up a little bit. He says here, I'm getting more comfortable every outing. He's also been working with a cutter, like slider this spring as well. The cutter has been working great. The sweeper has been getting better, but I'm trying to do more things like pitch up and in the zone, so I'll occasionally spray a few fastballs or whatever. But overall, I feel great with all my pitches, and I think the command is coming along. So he goes on to say here, I'm just trying to go out every day and get better and do what I can to get outs. I'm trying to treat every game like it's a big game, like I always do, and just go out there and be myself. And whatever happens, happens. It's God's plan at that point. So I'm just trying to go out there and make an impact as much as I can and leave the decision up to everyone else. So Phil Nevin, here are the comments. He says here, we're going to... But Nevin said the plan is for all the club's relievers, including Joyce, to pitch on consecutive days before the end of spring training. So he says here, we're going to do that next week with all of our relievers. It might be pitched in a game and then the next day in a controlled environment. Go out and throw 15, 20 pitches in a minor league game, but they will all do that, Joyce included. So, they're just not done evaluating their relievers right now. They want to see how a lot of these guys respond working back-to-back days. And I'm curious to see how Joyce would be, working back-to-back days. I don't think he did it in college. At least I don't think he did. But I would, if he passes that test and he's good to go, I am putting a guy like this in the bullpen. Why not? I mean, you did it with, the White Sox did it with Garrett Crochet. You can't teach velocity. Well, you can teach velocity, but you can definitely get better at it. But this dude's throwing over 100 miles an hour at just a pretty solid arm angle where he's a little tougher to pick up. He can make mistakes and he can still get away with them, right? It's not very often, hitters are having an easy time with 100+ mile an hour pitches, with the life that he has on those too. Like, it's not even just like velocity. It's just the life on it. All right. I'm putting this guy in the bullpen. So Angels fans, let me know. Where would you want Ben Joyce? Would you want him to go to the minors first? Would you want him to be in the bullpen in the major leagues at the start of the year? Let me know. But speaking of the major leagues, there is one guy that will not be in the major leagues this coming year, and that is Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer. He signed with the Bay Stars in Japan. My goodness, this is a pretty interesting story this past week. I didn't do a video on it because I figured, you know what? I'll wait till Sunday night. I'll wait till I do a stream, and I'll talk about it there. I'm going to be honest with all of you. I love it. I think it's great. I think that's really cool. Sure. Okay. I understand everyone, everyone's got a point of view about Trevor Bauer. He's a hot rod, topic these days. He's a hot button issue. Say what you will, whatever. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm talking about the fact of the matter is that he's going to Japan, and I think it's a good opportunity for him. Hey, say what you will. Whatever happened, happened. I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. No one knows exactly what happened with that whole situation. No one does. Well, except them. But what I do know is that Trevor Bauer, I think the guy, if he was cleared of the charges and the case itself never went anywhere, I think the guy at least deserves a shot to go out there and pitch, right? It's not here in the States. It's not in the major leagues. I think it's good for him to go to Japan, kind of get away from Major League Baseball for a little while, kind of let, things cool off a little bit more, and just kind of let things settle, and he can just go to a different country and he can pitch there. And I think for him, that's good because he can still just work on whatever it is that he's always wanting to work on with his pitching. He's always coming up with new and different things to work on. But he has said that he has wanted to pitch in Japan. He said that is something that has been, like a bucket list item for him. And hey, I think that's pretty cool that he gets to live it out. He probably wasn't going to, if nothing had ever happened with Bauer, he probably would have never have pitched in Japan unless it was like maybe later in his career, like when he was like in his 40s or something. I could have seen that. Like if he was done with Major League Baseball, he retired, but maybe he came out of retirement, right? And then, went to play in Japan at some point. I could have seen that. But I think it's just a cool opportunity for him. I think people deserve second chances. I'm that kind of a guy, and if you hate me for it, then fine, hate me for it. But I believe in second chances. I believe, especially when you don't even know if the guy, you don't know if he ever actually did anything. None of us know. Only he knows. Only the people that were involved know. But to me, I'm glad that he can just go to a different country of all places, and he can just go do what he likes to do, And I think that could be pretty fun. With a guy like Bauer, I feel like, it is a different environment over there. I wonder if he is going to be able to keep up like with the antics that he does, like the sword thing that he does. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that over there because I feel like Japan, it's a very respectful place, and I feel like those kind of antics wouldn't fly over there. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I wouldn't be doing that in Japan. Like, I feel like they wouldn't like that very much. I feel like it wouldn't be a very respectful thing for Bauer to do. But I think for Bauer, though, when it comes to, we all know Bauer loves doing the YouTubes just like I do. And I feel like going to Japan, he's going to get some good content over there. He loves the vlogs. I think the vlogs are going to be really cool. Personally, say what you will about Bauer, say what you will about how you feel about him. But I think those vlogs are going to be pretty cool. Just walking around in Japan, going trying different foods and trying restaurants and trying different experiences and just seeing how I think that's really good just for the game in Japan itself, because Bauer has a big fan base. Love him or hate him, it's fair how you feel. If you feel a certain way about him, that's fair. I'm not going to be mad if you don't like Trevor Bauer. But we all can agree that Bauer has a very big following. That is a fact. You can't argue that. I think that's going to be really good for the game in Japan itself. They're basically using Trevor Bauer here. It's marketing. In a way, it's not going to be like the biggest marketing out there, but it's something to kind of get the game out, their game, to American fans, at least the people that are watching Trevor Bauer's channel. It's something. And I think that there's content there that people are going to appreciate. I know I'll probably watch some of it. Yeah, I would love to go visit Japan. I would absolutely love that. I've seen some really cool things. Like I've seen like these hotels or whatever. They're like these little bubbles or whatever. Like you just like open up this little door and like you have just like this little room with like a little bed and stuff. Like they just look really like futuristic and whatnot. They look cool. And like, just different foods over there and stuff. I would love to go visit Japan. Like that's definitely a country I would love to go to. So yeah, I'll probably watch his videos. I'll probably watch the vlogs. I think that's really interesting. So either way, I think it's a good opportunity for him. He gets away from Major League Baseball for a little while. His name cools down. He's no matter what, when he will come back to Major League Baseball. I think he'll be back after next year. People are still going to throw their arms up. People are still going to be unhappy when he does come back. And, hey, your feelings are your feelings. But he's going to be back. He will be back in Major League Baseball. And I thought about this too. This will not happen, but I don't know why I even thought of this. Could you imagine How hilarious would it be? I just came up with this like concept in my head like a couple hours ago. Imagine if USA and Japan, right? Now, this is obviously not going to happen. I'm just, playing a fairy tale here in my head. Could you imagine USA Japan in the final, and then Trevor Bauer just shows up for Team Japan, and he has to pitch for them? Can you imagine that? I would die laughing. That'd be crazy. Can you imagine Trevor Bauer comes out from the bullpen or something, pitches like 3 shutout innings and en route to a Japan WBC victory? That'd be hilarious. That would be funny. You just come out like Kenny Powers and Eastbound and Down with like a Japan flag around him. That'd be awesome. That won't happen though. That'd be amazing if it did though. I would die laughing. But I think it's a good opportunity for him. I'm excited to see how he does. And you got some good hitters over there too. So it's not like he's just going over there, just pitching against, bad talent. Like, there's good hitters over there. I mean, obviously look at Japan right now. They got a great looking lineup. You got guys that can make things happen. It's a different game over there. And I think he's definitely going to have to adjust to a little bit to it. But I think he likes the challenge of that. I think he's going to appreciate just the different style of game over there. So, hey, I'll be keeping track of Trevor Bauer. Now, I wonder. Now, a lot of people said this to me on Twitter, where that probably no teams were interested in Trevor Bauer in the major leagues. I disagree with that. If I were a betting man, now I'm not very good at, not very good at bets. Bet responsibly wherever you may bet. But I will say, if I were to put money down, I would think that at least 1 or 2 major league teams called about him. My guess is that if there were a team out there, let's just say the White Sox. Let's say the White Sox made a phone call about Trevor Bauer. They've added some guys. You added Tony La Russa a couple years ago. He's had issues off the field. Mike Clevinger ended up having issues off the field. The White Sox have had issues with guys, they've had guys who've had things going on off the field. Let's say they made a phone call for Bauer and they said, hey, would you be interested in coming over for the league minimum? Right? Well, Bauer, if he's getting $4 million, from the Bay Stars, and he doesn't have to deal like with the American media, I think, and how he feels about Major League Baseball as well, I think he would take the Japan deal no brainer. Like, I think it would be automatic. He's going to take that deal. Now, teams over here in Major League Baseball, they have the leverage with him right now. From a business standpoint, from a negotiation standpoint, the major league teams have all the leverage with him right now because he just got, DFA'd. He got cut by the Dodgers. He has no leverage. He cannot really negotiate a deal. Because teams don't need to add him. Would they like to add him? Sure, but he's not. Teams can just get by, right? So I think, honestly, major league teams, they didn't really need to offer him a whole lot. Now, in Japan, sure, a team like the Bay Stars, where, they're trying to win a championship over there, trying to get a little more exposure, for their organization and the game of Japan in general, through Trevor Bauer, I think that he had a little bit more to play with there. And I think he was able to get a bit more money. But I do think I would bet you 1, 2, maybe 3 teams called about Trevor Bauer. I personally believe that. I would think that would happen. But I would think they were probably offering him basically nothing, or did he even get to that point? Did they maybe just call and say like, hey, what are you looking for? What kind of money are you looking for? And his agent said, hey, we're looking for this, this, this. Team said, okay, we're probably not going to do that. Right. So who knows if probably didn't even get deep into negotiations, but I bet a major league team made a phone call. I would bet that. But we'll never know. Maybe we'll know at some point down the road. Maybe Bauer will tell us or something like, oh, hey, remember that year where I went to Japan? Yeah, the White Sox called me that year. The Rangers called me that year. Who knows? Maybe Bauer will tell us at some point down the road. But, yeah, you know what? I'm happy he gets a chance to go pitch, and it's a unique opportunity for him. I think it's pretty cool, and I'll probably watch the vlogs. I'm just saying. Everyone, that's all I got for tonight. That's all I got. Yeah, I haven't been live here in, a few weeks, so it's nice to get back on here to talk to all of your friendly faces. I just want to say, thank you to all of you that dropped a super chat tonight. We had Ballcap gift 5 memberships to people, so Ballcap, if you're still here, thank you for that. Do appreciate that. Michael Yanks, you were dropping super chats like crazy tonight. Thank you so much for that. Jacob Toon, thank you for your super chats. And but yeah, everyone, hey, my brain, it's a little rusty. I haven't done this live thing in a few weeks, but we're close to the season now. We're gonna start kicking it back up. What is it now? It's not next Thursday. It's the Thursday after, so it's March 30th. So we have 10 days before the season starts. So I will have predictions at some point. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do them live or if I'm gonna do them like pre-recorded. I might do them pre-recorded this year. I'm not quite sure. I do like doing them live, but I actually might do them pre-recorded. I might see how that goes. Just kind of keep it a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little shorter. If I do it live, it ends up taking a long time. So I might just do the pre-recorded, edit it down a little bit. So that way it's a little more digestible, I would say. Because the live, I remember I did it last year. I felt like it ended up taking like a couple of hours to really get through the whole thing. So not fully decided. We'll probably do it pre-recorded, but either way, I will be getting back to doing consistent live streams every single week, at least 2 times a week. I'm pretty excited to get back to doing that. And for this coming season too, I'm going to tell you all, one thing I'm going to really start to focus on a little bit more is doing more pre-recorded content. Last year I felt like I was focusing more on the live stuff, but I want to actually start getting out a video every week, like every Sunday or every Saturday I release a video, or maybe even 2 videos per week, depending on my schedule. I am a teacher full time, but that is the goal, for this coming year, to do at least a video per week, release it, on the weekend at some point. I want to start doing that a little bit more, where I start I look back at things like, look back at a certain team, or look back at like a certain player, or focus on like a current player, just do more of the edited videos. I want to start doing those a little bit more, but the live streams will continue, and I'm excited for it. But everyone, if you can, on your way out, hit that like button for me. How many likes are we at? How many likes do we have? Are you all hitting the like button for me? What's the likes at? We only got 59 likes. What in the world? Everyone, hit that like button for me. Come on, hit that like button. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. That would help us get to 30K. That is the goal. We are so close to 30K. We are within 900 subscribers. So if you can help us get there, thank you so much. Hit the bell notification. That way you know I go live every single time. Share the content if you can. That would go very well. Athletics510 says, I love the live streams. Well, Athletics510, I love you, and I love you for still coming on out. You've been coming to my streams now, Athletics510, for what, like 2 years now? Man, good to see you around still. Everyone, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get to bed. What time is it? It's almost midnight. I got to work in the morning. My spring break is over. I had a whole week off this past week, and now I got to go back to work tomorrow. I hate it here. Everyone, have a great night, and I'll talk to you next time.